U.S. realities.
Do you think democracy in America truly works? Do you believe that every citizen's vote carries the same weight? That the playing field is level and the people decide the country's future? The reality is far more unsettling. In America, some people don't just cast their vote, they buy the rules of the game itself. While ordinary citizens stand in line to vote every few years, the wealthiest individuals are busy shaping the political landscape year-round, using methods that are completely legal. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how America's richest billionaires influence elections, control political narratives, and set the agenda without ever breaking the law. We're going to lift the curtain on the world of super PACs, media empires, and lobbying. A world where political power is not earned at the ballot box, but purchased in the marketplace of influence. In America, elections aren't won solely with votes. They're won with money. Think of names like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, George Soros, Charles Koch, and Michael Bloomberg. These people are not only titans of industry, they are powerful political players. During election seasons, they pour hundreds of millions of dollars into campaigns, but not in the way most people imagine. This isn't about simply cutting a check to a candidate and walking away. Behind every dollar is a calculated strategy, a plan to shape public opinion, control the conversation, and tip the scales in favor of their chosen outcomes. They don't just support candidates. They invest in ideas, in narratives, in the subtle art of persuasion that reaches voters long before they step into a polling booth. One of the most effective tools for this is something called a super PAC, short for Independent Political Action Committee. On paper, super PACs can't give money directly to a candidate. That's illegal. But here's the loophole. They can spend unlimited amounts of money promoting or attacking candidates, as long as they claim to be acting independently. And that independence often means running ads, producing media, and creating viral campaigns that align perfectly with the candidate's message, without a single handshake or meeting being required. There are no limits on what these ads can say or how much they can cost. Fear-based messaging, emotionally charged imagery, selective facts, and outright misleading statements are all fair game. During the 2020 U.S. elections, super PACs spent an astonishing $3.2 billion. And where does most of that money come from? The top 1% of the wealthiest Americans. Meanwhile, the average voter's contribution is their single ballot, one vote in a sea of millions. But money doesn't just flow through political ads. It flows through the veins of America's media system. Because in a country where most people get their political information from TV and online news, controlling the media means controlling the narrative. The vast majority of the U.S. media landscape is owned by just a handful of giant corporations. Behind those corporations are wealthy investors and billionaire owners. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, owns The Washington Post. Michael Bloomberg owns Bloomberg News, a sprawling network with global influence. Rupert Murdoch owns Fox News, The New York Post, and a media empire that reaches millions daily. When billionaires own the megaphone, they decide what gets amplified and what gets silenced. They determine which stories dominate the headlines, how those stories are framed, and which voices are heard or ignored. This isn't simply about political endorsements. It's about shaping the very way people think about politics, candidates, and policies. And when controlling the media isn't enough, there's another even more direct route: lobbying. Lobbying is often described as legalized bribery. It's the practice of meeting directly with lawmakers to influence legislation, and it's perfectly legal in the United States. Corporations, trade groups, and wealthy individuals hire teams of lobbyists, often former politicians or insiders with deep connections, to argue for laws that benefit their interests. Sometimes they don't just argue, they write the laws themselves. It's not uncommon for the first draft of a bill to come directly from corporate attorneys, handed to a member of Congress ready to be introduced. In 2022 alone, over $4 billion was spent on lobbying efforts in the United States. These weren't meetings with the general public. These were closed-door discussions between lawmakers and powerful interest groups, people with money, access, and influence. The average American citizen isn't in the room when these deals are made. So where does all of this leave democracy? In theory, the people choose their leaders. In reality, by the time voters head to the polls, much of the choice has already been shaped, sometimes even decided, by those who can afford to flood the system with cash. Campaigns, advertising blitzes, targeted social media messaging, and polls designed to influence public opinion all work together to guide the electorate in a specific direction. A voter may feel they're making an independent choice, but if the only voices they've heard, the only stories they've read, and the only ads they've seen are funded by a handful of ultra-wealthy individuals, how free is that choice really? This raises a question that every democracy has to face. Is this truly government by the people? Or is it a high-budget performance, a carefully staged production where the outcome is more predictable than we'd like to admit? In America, there's a common saying, one person, one vote. But what does that mean in a system where a single billionaire can spend the equivalent of millions of people's combined contributions? If one vote equals 1 unit of political power, then billions of dollars represent a scale of influence that dwarfs the power of any ordinary citizen. And yet, everything we've discussed here is legal. Super PACs, media ownership, and lobbying are all accepted parts of the political process. There are laws meant to promote transparency, disclosure of donations, registration of lobbyists. But in practice, these systems are easy to navigate for those with enough resources. Money flows through complex networks of committees, nonprofits, and shell organizations, making it almost impossible to trace the true origin of political influence. The result is a system where the wealthiest individuals are able to shape not just election outcomes, but the very terms of political debate. They can push certain issues into the spotlight while ensuring others never see the light of day. They can make a candidate's career or destroy it with a few strategic investments in media and advertising. So the next time you watch a political ad, read a headline, or hear about a new piece of legislation, it's worth asking, who paid for this? Whose interests are being served? And how much of what you're seeing is the product of genuine public demand? And how much is the result of someone somewhere writing a very large check? If one vote is a form of power, then billions of dollars are a superpower. America's system appears equal on the surface, but behind the curtain, the formula for inequality has already been written, and it's been perfected over decades. If this leaves you with questions about how democracy works in the modern age, you're not alone. Share your thoughts in the comments, because conversations like these are the first step toward understanding and maybe someday changing the system. If you found this video insightful, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the forces that shape our world. Because the more you know about how power really works, the better equipped you are to stand up to it.